I'm going to shoot a new intro to my video, or my series of videos for this engine swap. I've done this 5 times now, because I lost the original video that was done on my old iPhone, and I'm glad I swapped phones, because this one shoots in 4K. Anyway, 2001 F250, 180,000 miles. You can see it's already apart. Again, lost the original. I developed a misfire in the motor shortly after I bought it, and not that I was disappointed with that many miles. I knew it was going to have some issues there. I'm pretty well experienced with the ignition problems of these Fords, and most of the time they're easy to track down. There's nightmare stories of green wires, i.e. corroded, broken wires, broken pigtails. I've had that problem. Crimped or broken wires, especially in these trucks, right at where the plug goes into the powertrain control module, or ECM, PCM. Ford calls it a PCM. Normally it's just a bad coil pack or COP, coil unplug. And from my experience, they don't just die. They normally, well, they could, but a lot of times you got to look a little closer, especially at the pigtail. And I've had it happen. I've got my Mercury out there. I had 2 of them go bad because the pigtails were bad, the plugs were bad. They just weren't getting a good connection. And with those, I just took a pick, went inside, bent the copper connectors in a little bit so they had a little bit better grab of the terminals on the COP. Replaced COPs, never had an issue. That was a couple years ago. Anyway, I got this truck, had the misfire, no codes, and a lot of times there aren't any codes with these. So I put plugs in COPs in the coil packs. I'm just going to call them coil packs. Anybody watching, you should know what I'm talking about, especially if you're this far into it. I believe GM calls them coil packs. Ford calls them coil on plugs, which is literally what they are. It's a coil right on top of each plug. So I bought a set of Petronics COPs. I only bought those because I couldn't get the Excels that I wanted, the set of 8. Couldn't get them as quick as I wanted them. So I bought the Petronics. They had them at Advanced Auto. They had good reviews. I've never used them before. I like the Excels. I don't want to get into a debate. I really don't care what your opinion of the Excels are, and I don't mean to sound like an arrogant idiot saying that. I've had good luck with them. I'm just saying, if you're looking for something, you want to save some money, buy those. That Mercury out there has had the same set in it for 13 years. I only lost 2 of them, and that was because of the bad connectors. I replaced both of those, and I've never had a problem since, and they've been in there a long time. I've had other modular Fords, same thing, put Excels in them, they're still going to this day, 100,000 miles on them, no issues. I had a 05 F250, 300,000 miles, still going. Anyway, put those in, truck ran great for about 2 weeks. For 180,000 miles, this motor was healthy other than what caused its demise. And I was going highway speed, little pre-ignition or a ping, lasted 3-4 seconds, and that was it. The motor started. It was a good miss, maybe a little worse than it was when the coil pack was bad, and maybe that's because it just wasn't totally shot. But it wasn't just that. It started to have, the only thing I could describe, you hear a thud in the exhaust, almost like a dead skip. So I knew there was more of an issue other than just the ignition problem. Anyway, got it home, pulled each connector while it was running, found it was number 3. And number 3 I'm referring to is number 3 from the front, going backwards on the driver's side, the left side. And that wasn't a surprise, because when I originally did the tune-up on the truck, that cylinder, which from here on out I'm just going to keep calling number 3. I could be wrong. I don't remember how Ford numbers the firing order on these, and it's not that really important. Again, 3rd one back from the front, driver's side. I had a hard time getting that plug out, and I had a hard time getting the new plug in. And I knew I was going to have an issue. Either it had blown a plug and had a crappy repair, or it was about to blow a plug. Anyway, this time I put a new coil pack on it, and nothing, made no difference. And I put I don't remember if I used a Noid light or I used I have a really nice test light from OTC. If you're looking for one that'll it'll test ground and positive and low volt for sensors. It's LED, thing's great for what it costs. So I knew I had power at the pigtail. And again, I used the right type of light. So with the new coil pack and knowing I had power there, I knew I had a problem that the spark plug wasn't firing or something else going on. Took the plug out, I couldn't get it out. Just spun and spun to the point where it was spinning easy, but it just would not come out of the well. I even spun it with a 20 volt drill or one of my impacts, and I don't remember even how I got it out. I just kept spinning. Eventually it came out. I grabbed it with a magnet and it came out. And it was just, something in there was just holding it. Not tight, again, spinning loose. And that doesn't really even matter. I get it out, top of the plug's completely burned off. So I knew I had a problem, either a burnt valve, burnt the piston. Figured burn the top of the spark plug, it could probably burn the valve and burn the piston too. But I wasn't sure. I took my scope. If you're ever looking for one of those bore scopes, buy one off of Amazon for 20, 25 bucks. I got one. I believe I got it as a gift. I don't remember who bought it for me, but the thing works great. Don't spend a lot of money on one. I think Harbor Freight sells them. They're pretty cheap too. It's grainy, but it's a decent resolution picture. Like, you could see the crosshatch in the cylinders of number 3. And the motor looked good. Other than that, I knew I didn't have a problem. From what I could see, nothing with the cylinder wall, the portion of it I could see, and nothing wrong with the top of the piston. So I continue on from there. I bought the Calvan kit let me backtrack. Got the plug out, it had a helicoil insert on it. And the helicoil insert, it's not just the helicoil thread repair, it's made to fix these modular motors, these Fords. It's a threaded tube with a knurl on the end, and I don't care for them. I knew what it was as soon as I pulled it out. It was stuck to the plug. You can't even get it off the plug. I had the plug at one point. I may have taken a picture of it. I'm sure I did. Or I showed here in the video. But you're pretty much finished using any other type of insert other than a Calvan or a time cert, because the time cert and the Calvan are both larger than the helicoil or whatever other brands there are out there that Napa or anybody else sells. They're a couple thousands bigger, and they will fix one of those failed helicoil brand inserts. And I know people have used helicoils and the other ones and had great luck with them. Maybe this one wasn't put in the right way. I like helicoil, I use their stuff all the time, but this one failed. And the only option you have then, again, Calvan or time cert. I went with Calvan, a little less expensive, plus they have good reviews. They always seem to work great. If you want to watch a video on how to do one of those, it's on one of these vehicles, one of these motors, go to Ford Tech Make You Loco. He has a YouTube channel. I'm not associated with them or affiliated with them in any way. The guy just does, on my opinion, one of the best Ford mechanics I've ever seen, and he does a great job presenting things and explaining. And you want to know how to put one of those inserts in, I'm not going to waste anybody's time. I couldn't top his video on my best day. But go to him and you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, the Calvan kit comes with a rubber stopper. The rubber stopper goes in the spark plug well, and it's got an air line running through the middle of it. You hook it to your compressor, and 60 psi I think is all it needs, and all that's done. All that's for is now you turn the motor over by hand, and it will blow the stopper out, and it'll let you know that both valves are closed. Then all you have to do is use the bore scope, and keep going through your pistons all the way down. And I guess you can put the stopper back in, make sure the valves are still closed. You know you're good to go. And the tools that you use to rethread the spark plug hole will not damage your piston because it's all the way down. You don't have to worry about any debris in the valve seats because the valves are closed. And that's the idea behind it. Anyway, put my stopper in, put 60 psi, nothing. 90 psi, I let the compressor fly. 110 psi, I don't even know what I had to it. Turning it by hand, nothing. I could hear air going where it shouldn't have been going. At least at what I figured where everything should have been based on my revolutions of the engine. The next thing I did was I pulled the fuel pump fuse or relay, and I had to do that because I had to get to that number 3 is right underneath the fuel pressure regulator. You almost can't do anything with it without lifting the rail off, which isn't a big deal. It's easy to move, but if you're going to turn the motor over with the battery, you got to kill the fuel, which I did. So now I spun it with the starter. Nothing. It just will not blow that stopper off. And these things, turning it by hand, you can do it right now on the bench. If I still had the kit, I'd show you. It'll blow it right off. So now I know I have no compression in that zone. And the only thing it could be, because I used the bore scope and saw the piston in the wall, is it had to be a valve. I need a motor at this point. Alright, so at 180,000 miles, I'm not going to put heads on this thing, and I don't think you can even pull the heads on one of these in the truck. I mean, as big as that engine bay is, I guess they designed it for a diesel, which is a crock anyway, because if it's a 6.0, you're lifting the cab off of it to work on it. And the V10, I guess maybe that's the idea behind it. And the V10 is obviously longer than this, but this thing sits under the firewall more than I think it should. But what do I know? I'm no engineer. So you don't have a lot of room. I don't think you could get the rear head bolts out of this motor, even if you wanted to put heads on it in the truck. I don't think it could be done. Maybe it can. Don't hold me to that either. But I would, if I was putting heads on this, I would have pulled the motor anyway, just to make my life easier. You can see I took the front end off to pull the motor out basically through the front. That's not even necessary. At least I don't think it is. This is the first time I ever pulled an engine out of one of these. I know in an F250 you could pull them out without taking all this off. This just makes it easier. Take your time getting the core support out and or the top bar and everything. Yeah, you're going to lose your AC and all that, but just for the sake of convenience, get it out. Anyway, I'm not putting heads on it, so I'm going to order a motor. I can't remember the name of the place, but I'll get into that when I actually get the motor. It's a place in Maryland. I think it's in Hagerstown. Whatever it is, I'm 4 hours away. During the week or on a Saturday, I could drive down and get it whenever I'm ready for it, but it's $75 to ship it to my door, so that's easy enough for me, and it's a place with a good reputation, good warranty, and honestly, I think the motor is only like $2,300. The only place cheaper is Ford, and I didn't go with a Ford motor because they don't address the spark plug issue. It's that simple, and if they do, they don't tell you how. This place addresses the low oil pressure problem. They take care of the spark plugs, and I think they have some proprietary method even they referred to welding it or putting inserts in. Whatever they do, they do. I emailed a lot of other companies, I'm not going to say what their names are, and they just don't want to tell you how they address it. They just don't want to tell you. Ford just tells you to torque them at the right spec and do it every 40,000 miles. Well, I don't want to hear that because it doesn't work. At least in my experience, it doesn't. It's going to blow the plugs out. They don't all do it, but most of them do. So, anyway, back to what I was saying. That's where the motor's going to come from. Turns out, once I got it apart, it was an intake valve on number 3. You can see it's broken from the top. Curiosity got the best of me one day. I pulled the head off, and boy, it's another video, but it's got a hell of a hole in it. So that was the end of this one. But unfortunately, the motor is pretty healthy. I mean, it'd be worth putting heads on if I just simply didn't have the means to get another motor. I'm sure this thing would run for another ton of miles. It wouldn't be the worst decision to just put heads on it, but I get the May as well, so then it would be timing chains and probably new crank bearings, rod bearings, and just for what it takes to work on these things, I'm replacing everything under the hood. I might as well just put them out with a warranty too, because they're not easy to work on. With all that space, it's just not easy. So that's where we're at. Again, you can see I'm already far along in the video here, but got everything, a lot of stuff painted, cleaned it up. But the truck is well worth saving. I mean, the front is, most rust is right by the steering box. The edges where the fender tabs are. And that's it. Underneath this thing, for being a truck from the Northeast, is golden. It really is nice. So, anyway, this is my intro, and I've got a lot of things already recorded. Stop the intro here, and I'll be adding to this series as I go on.